to use these logic errors. And you need to recognize these logic errors because you know there's a lot of teachers out there using these, thinking they're really promoting evolution when they're really using logical errors. Well, so far we've had fuzzy words, we've had a half-truth, we've had the bandwagon, we have glittering generalities, we've had loaded words, and we've had association. And we have our caller out there, and I'd like to take Art from Puyallup. You have a question or a concern about creation evolution.
Yes, Mike, I really appreciate your ministry, and I love hearing your topics. Hey, I'm really into evidence of the flood, and I've talked to you before on it. But in specifics, the Grand Canyon, is that not all, and Bryce Canyon and Zion National Park and Escalantes and all those places down there, aren't those sedimentary rocks?
Yes, they are sedimentary rocks.
And therefore, didn't there have to be a whole bunch of sediment to make that rock?
There would have to be a lot of sediment, but you know, here's the two choices. One, we had a long period of time and little water, like the Colorado River forming, or we had a lot of water and a little time to do it.
Right.
Then the Genesis flood, what we have seen, a flood of that proportion would have laid down sediments rapidly. You know, Mount St. Helens is the best observable evidence we have of that.
Huh.
Mount St. Helens laid down thousands of thin layers of sediment in a matter of hours.
Okay.
Off the East Coast, we actually have over 100,000 square miles of sediments that were laid down in a matter of hours. They're called turbidites. Those are underwater landslides. And this was actually observed to happen in the early 20th century. I like to say that now that we're in the 21st century. We had an underwater landslide that just systematically cut each one of the cables, transatlantic cables. And they went down to find out what happened. There was an earthquake, and a huge underwater landslide laid down over 100,000 square miles of sediment just in a matter of hours.
Yeah, but did it turn to rock like the Grand Canyon and Zion and all that?
Yes, not under there yet. See, if you get the right minerals and right elements, and you can turn to rock. It doesn't take a long time to turn to solid rock. All you have to do is have the right minerals. For instance, let's take petrified wood, for example. Exactly. You know, we can make petrified wood through natural processes in well under a week.
Huh.
It's just having the right conditions.
And Mike, thank you for that. Also, all around here we've got the quote-unquote glacial till. And I go look at a gravel pit or something, and I just see where they've scarred the countryside, just all that plaster rock and the clay and just the layers that are in there. There's no way a glacier could do that. That had to be a flood, right?
Yes, we see signs of a flood everywhere. There's no way that we could have what we see today over long periods of time. It just does not fit the evidence.
And it doesn't. That's great. I appreciate it, sir. Keep on teaching us.
Oh, thank you very much, Art. Thank you for calling. God bless you.
Bye.
Well, let's get back to our logic errors, and we want to let you know that we do need sponsors for this show. We have our favorite sponsor, Hansen Chiropractic, and I want to let you know, you need to go there and see Dr. Dan and Dr. Mary. They are just wonderful people. They are more than your normal chiropractor. They will sit down and talk the science with you, folks. These people are wonderful. I've been to their place to see what they do. They have some tremendous stuff there. But we are looking for more sponsors, folks, to keep this show on the air. And if you'd like to contact us, again, you can go to our website, creationmatters.org. Well, let's continue on. Number 7, logic error number 7 used by evolutionists. I call this ridicule. Ridicule. This is attempting to provoke a dislike against a person or idea by name-calling. Here's your example. Creationists are troglodytes and flat earthers. That's quite often used. You know, I've seen that actually in textbooks. You know, there's no place for that in textbooks, but yet there is. That's all the evolutionists seem to resort to. Let me give you another example here. This just happened. Bill Maher, who has his own radio and TV shows out there. One of what's called the politically incorrect or correct. Bill Maher made a statement the other day. Let me read this to you about Christians. It says, Christians and others who are religious suffer from a neurological disorder that stops people from thinking. Did you know that's what he has been saying over the radio and over television? That's what he called. He says we are a nation that is unenlightened because of religion. Let me read to you what else he had to say in this comment. He goes on to say, Bill Maher, I am just embarrassed that it has been taken over by people like evangelicals, by people who do not believe in science and rationality. And then he goes on to equate the Bible to fairy tales. Well, folks, who is the irrational person here? Not the Christians, folks. Bill Maher is one of the irrational people that does not understand science. He simply does not understand science. Bill Maher has the greatest religious faith of anybody, folks, because, you know, he believes in evolution. That requires much more religious faith than it does to believe in the Bible, folks, because the Bible has evidence. Evolution does not. And if anybody out there thinks evolution has any real observable evidence, you got to give us a call at 800-955-8200. So right there you see one of the most irrational, illogical, and unscientific people I know on television. There's probably a lot that are close to him, too. Well, let's go to number 8 here. Logic error number 8 used by evolutionists and also found in many of our textbooks. I call this circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence. What we mean by that is assuming physical evidences are related. Assuming physical evidences are related. Let me give you a couple examples. Now, example number 1 is probably the best evidence I have heard from an evolutionist. This is probably the best evidence I've heard from an evolutionist. And here's their statement. And see if you think this is scientific. We are here, therefore we must have evolved. Whoa! Does that sound scientific to you folks? We are here, therefore we must have evolved? Where is the evidence? This is one of their best evidences they use. See, there's nothing observable about this. It's just making a great claim. And they do this so they don't have to support it with observable evidence. In other words, these logic errors are just ploys so somebody won't challenge them to produce the real evidence. Here's another example of circumstantial evidence, assuming physical evidences are related. Fossil horses are arranged in an evolutionary sequence. Therefore, we know horses evolved. Well, you know what they're not telling you there? We go to the museums, we see these horses arranged from smallest to largest. We have the same picture in our textbooks. You know what they're not telling you about this? That's not how we found them. We did not find the horses from smallest to largest. We found them all mixed together. You know what that means? They all lived at the same time. We need to get science back to the science classroom. That's one of the things I've been saying for all these months we've been on here. Folks, evolution is hindering our education system. It is hindering good science from being taught. What they also don't tell you about those horses is they have this small to medium to large horses. Do you know we have small horses today? We have miniature horses. We actually have miniature horse farms here in the state of Washington. We have medium-sized horses and we have large horses. They're not evolving. They exist today, and they're all horses. So the whole horse evolutionary sequence has been fabricated. Well, so far we've had 8 logical errors used by evolutionists. Fuzzy words, half-truth, bandwagon, glittering generalities, loaded words, association, ridicule, and then number 8 was circumstantial evidence. And let's go to number 9. I call this the either-or fallacy. Number 9, the either-or fallacy. And what I mean by this is presenting only one possible solution when others are justified. In other words, presenting only one possible solution when others are justified. Here's your example. If we teach creation, then we'll have to teach every other creation myth. Now, here's the fallacy of that. We are not, as creationists, as Christians, out to teach creation or the Bible in the science classroom, because it's not a perfect world. Therefore, what we do want is to teach the science in the science classroom. And the evolutionists do not want that to happen. That's happened all across this country, even in this state. They do not want the scientific evidence brought up in the evolution class. They just want to control our children by teaching them a false religion called evolution. Now, if it sounds like I'm strong here tonight, folks, I am. I'm being very strong in this because I travel all over the world, folks. I've been to every state in this country, been to universities, I've been to secular schools, I've been